Welcome back, Kaiju fans. Today, we're actually going to be discussing not Godzilla for once, we're going to be discussing Gamera, so the other big G. And what exactly is the current state of Gamera, if there's any more movies actually being released, what the deal with the 2015 trailer was, all of that. So, to get started, we'll just get something out of the way. To take Gamera into perspective, the success of the franchise is actually directly related to the success of Godzilla. As most of you probably know, Gamera is a rival studio Dai to Toho and a rival monster in general, kind of like how Marvel and DC compete for the same scene in the United States with superheroes. Toho and Dai are kind of that same concept going at each other with kaiju films. So the difference with that, though, is that since Dai is so much more of an underdog, the success of the Gamera franchise is directly associated to the success and interest in the Godzilla franchise. And what I mean by that is that obviously the Showa era of Gamera happened in the kind of mostly the same time slot as the Showa era of Godzilla. It actually lasted a tiny bit longer, but there was way less films in that. But the situation with that is Gamera was produced, the first film was produced because of the success that Toho had been having with Godzilla, and the success that the original Gamera movie had was significant enough for them to justify making more films, so they proceeded to make more films after that, stretching from 1965 all the way through 1980. So it did last a little bit longer than the Showa era of Godzilla, but it had way less films. So that entire era was feeding off the success of the Godzilla movies because they were banking on, as long as Godzilla still had fans and they would just be giant monster fans in general and not be completely loyal to the Godzilla franchise, they would branch out and watch the Gamera movies. And that's how it worked. That's how they made their profit. That's how they got the Gamera franchise rolling. And then they ended it in 1980. Moving on from that, we got the first reboot of the Heisei era of Gamera, which began in 95 and went through 99. So this was rebooted because it was the 95 was, I don't know, you could almost call it the peak of, like the Heisei era was just wrapping up in Godzilla. It was very, very successful. The Heisei era is probably a fan favorite for a majority of modern Godzilla fans. The Heisei era has that singular continuity that made it so enjoyable because it wasn't a bunch of independent films that didn't regard the others. They were all a cohesive, linear story. So Dai saw the opportunity to reboot the Gamera franchise in 95 because the kaiju void was going to be diminished with the ending of the Heisei era of Godzilla, so they produced their trilogy. Again, they wanted to play into that cohesive storyline, so they produced the trilogy of the Guardian of the Universe Gamera, which is arguably one of the best trilogies or cohesive stories of kaiju films to this day. Those three movies together produces such a good storyline and very interesting kaiju and actually really decent human characters. So those three films are very highly regarded in the kaiju community because of how successful and how well done they were, thus probably peaking the Gamera franchise at the end of 99 when Gamera Revenge of Iris released. That time frame between 95 and 99 was the peak of the Gamera interest. And then what happened after that is they ended it in 99, which we know is right when the Millennium series for Godzilla would start up and run through 2004. And then when Godzilla ended in 2004 with Final Wars, they started to work on their last film to this day, which would be Gamera the Brave, again trying to play into that missing void of kaiju like really big kaiju. Obviously, Ultraman's been here and there throughout the time frame, but they saw the opportunity. Okay, there's a void again. We can fill this. We can get success once again. But sadly, that just wasn't the case because April 29, 2006, Gamera the Brave came out, and it was probably one of the worst movies they've ever made. It was very, very, very bad in the eyes of a lot of Gamera fans, a lot of kaiju fans, and is just, it's a bad movie. It really is, and not very many people liked that, and then that kind of right there was kind of the nail in the coffin for Gamera. It just finished it for a while. So that leads us to the modern era of Gamera. So what was that trailer that we saw before? So basically, the senior managing director and producer of Dai wanted to make a proof of concept trailer for a potential Gamera reboot to be made in the future. Basically, the idea was they can prove to people that they can make a good Gamera movie again, unlike Gamera the Brave. And this proof of concept trailer doesn't necessarily have to be. It wasn't intended to be related to any film. It was to renew the interest, see if they could work with it, and they made it and they released it. So we've all seen that. That's the trailer, the Gamera 2015/2016 trailer, where there's the giant swarm of Gauss, and Gamera has that almost force field emitting kaiju in that, and it's a very cinematic and drawn out trailer because it's not a movie trailer. It's a proof of concept trailer for a movie that doesn't exist. Kind of like if you think way back when the original Deadpool trailer wasn't a trailer for a movie that was existing, it was a proof of concept to see if that interest was going to be there, and then Deadpool movie got produced because of that interest in that film, if you understand what I mean. So the interest in the trailer, the concept trailer, is what actually got the movie funded and produced because they knew that it would actually be successful. So that's essentially what that trailer was. It was almost produced as a short story with two parts. Obviously, there was the Gauss and the force field monster. There was a conclusion to the Gauss conflict, but not to the force field monster. That's like the cliffhanger. That's the, okay, so what happens next kind of get your interest, get your attention, and then figure out whether or not this is going to be a successful film or not. So this, so far, that's all we've gotten is the trailer. There's been no other word. Been no word whatsoever if they're actually going to go through with the self-titled Gamera movie that was supposed to produce. That's the current state. Obviously, they got the interest, and especially with looking back at what we've already previously discussed, with Gamera's success being directly associated with Godzilla's success, we can almost expect some word on this sometime soon, with the success of Shin Gojira being the best film in Japan of 2016. So if they were going to release a Gamera movie, this would be the ideal time to do it, is in this cluster of Godzilla movies, or actually after this cluster of Godzilla movies. So if they release a Gamera movie 2020, 2021, that would be the prime spot, because we have no Godzilla films planned outside of now till 2020. So anytime after 2020, that would be the time to slip a Gamera movie in there, because right now would be the time to generate interest for that, because we need something. The kaiju fans need something after this Godzilla, these planned Godzilla films wrap up. So that's when they would be able to put it out, because that's what they've been doing, is right when Godzilla ends something, that's when they come in with their films. And it worked very well for the Heisei era of Gamera films. It flopped with the 2006 Gamera the Brave, but the proof of concept for this Gamera movie is a much more serious, dark tone kind of feel, like the Heisei era of Gamera films were. So that's what we can actually be looking forward to, and that gets people very excited. So hopefully you understand what I'm saying about Gamera feeding off the success of Godzilla and why now slash post 2020 is the actual time frame for Gamera's return. Theoretically, it potentially could happen. It makes sense for it to happen, and that's the explanation for that trailer that we all saw. I know a lot of people believe that it was a trailer for an existing movie. Hopefully I clarified for you that it is a trailer that is for a non-existent movie, basically just to see if there's still interest in the franchise and proving that Dai can still make a decent kaiju film after the flop of Gamera the Brave being one of the worst kaiju movies to come out of, I don't know, the past 20 years. So that's going to be it. Let me know what you guys think about the the 2015 Gamera trailer, what you would like to see in a new Gamera reboot, and if you agree on whether or not Gamera feeds off the success of Godzilla. Obviously, it's been proven significantly that that is most likely the case, but I'd love to see your guys' thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, and that's going to be it for this video. I will catch you all in the next one. Peace out.